of, don't let your weight determine your worth. You have a really important story, I think, to tell, and you tell that in your book. Anyway, we'll get into that a little later, but really, that article struck me. And it struck me because, you highlighted a lot of important things. So really the first question I want to ask you, and please do feel free to introduce yourself afterwards, but what made you write this piece?
Well, so I wrote it back during at the time of the George Floyd protests. It was the beginning of June. And, we had been in lockdown for a while because of the pandemic, and then all this was happening. And it just seemed like, a lot was happening at once and people were kind of exhausted. And I felt like, while I understood why people were saying, I can't wait for things to go back to normal, for me, I was like, okay, well, let's think critically about what that really means. What is normal? What does that represent? And to me, the normal that we've been living it's not fair, it's not equal, and it's certainly not sustainable. But I wanted to explain that to people. I wanted to say, look, I get that you're exhausted and you want things to calm down. But there's a reason why all of this is happening. And it's to push us away from a way of being that is just literally not sustainable. Our country has kind of been pregnant with this idea of like a representative democracy for like 244 years. Mm-hmm. And now it's like we're giving birth to it, and like all the stuff that's happening, these are the labor pains, these are the contractions. And we just had a really big contraction this past Wednesday,
Yep, absolutely.
And the thing is about labor is those contractions, they get more intense and they get closer together. And I think that what we're seeing is just like the old way is just kind of dying so we can birth a whole new way of being. And this is, as painful as it is, this is a good thing, and we really, instead of fighting against it, we need to embrace it and just really look at the lessons that it's here to teach us. So that's really why I wrote that article.
Yeah, I was really caught up in that metaphor. I hadn't thought about it as a pregnancy, but I think it is a good metaphor, because therein lies that kind of the both sides of it, right? The beauty of like what a birth can be, right? But the pain, the actual pain that happens, right? And so, I think as, we've had several conversations together. I feel like there have been times we could talk for hours about this stuff, right? Sure. We don't have that time here, but, I think one of the important things that we have talked about is, so really talking about change, right? I think anyone can kind of talk about this change, right? What does it mean to really be active participants in change, right? Like, how do you see that, right? We're not experts up here saying that we know everything, right? We're having a conversation about it. So like, what do you think about being, active participants in change? What does that mean for you?
Well, I think one of the important things that we need to focus on is just really put our energy towards what it is that we want to build instead of like resisting what we don't like. Like if we want to build a world that's built on equality and unity and love and compassion, then we need to focus on things that exemplify that. And that really starts with the individual and looking at your life and seeing like, what can you do in that capacity? You don't have a lot of control over what other people do in their lives. That's not up to you. The only thing you can control is what you're doing. So how can you as a person help to make the world a better place? I think it really just starts with just making sure that you're healthy, you're happy, that you're living from, a place of love and compassion as often as you can, and that you support people or projects that are, that are in alignment with that. It's very important that we pay attention to what's going on and that there is justice for people that are wrongdoings, and like certainly what happened Wednesday was a really good example of that. There needs to be justice there. But at the same time, we can't get caught up in just like the anger that we're feeling, you know, process it, but we need to be able to put our energy towards building what we want. As a personal trainer, I'm a certified personal trainer. When I want to help people change their lives, to change their health, I don't tell them to focus on all the bad things that they were doing. You know, I'm like, let's change and let's focus on building, you know, life habits that will help you to be healthier. So it's sort of the same thing. Is like, just figure out what you can control in your life and how you can you know, build your own life in a way where it's advancing and enhancing your health and your happiness.
Absolutely. No, I mean, that makes a lot of sense. And I think, you know, I think a lot of people have heard that phrase, right? Change starts from within. I fully believe that, right? And I think it's important to talk about this when as it relates to entrepreneurship and really developing a community where people can pull from each other in real time. You know, as creators, you know, we go through all those emotions. We go through anger, right? The things that we do are shaped by the world and the events that are happening to us, you know. Sure. You know, part of this, right, is really hearing about the stories that brought people to where they are. And you know, you were talking a lot about change. You have an amazing story. You know, you wrote a book about it. It got endorsed by Marianne Williamson. I mean, that's awesome. So I just, you know, I want to take this moment. I would love for you to, you know, share some pieces of your story that really brought you to that place of recognizing, okay, I only have control over me, and I, you know, changes have to happen. So how did that inform where you are?
So back when I was in my mid-20s, I developed, I had really severe body image issues, and that led to eating disorders, including disordered eating, and even anorexia. I had a couple of bouts of anorexia. And over the next like 5 years, I was dealing with trying to figure out what being healthy actually meant. And I always kind of looked at your health as more of like a physical thing. What I learned is that it's so much more than that. It's also mental and emotional and even spiritual. And once I finally understood that, you know, my body image issues were an internal problem, not an external problem. And that to really take care of my physical body, I needed to figure out what's going on in here. And I needed to get to those beliefs, those deep subconscious beliefs that were making me think that my worth was tied to the way I looked, and heal that. Mm-hmm. And then that's when I could really start to live a healthy life. Mm-hmm. I mean, I was so bad at points that I was afraid to eat an 80-calorie yogurt because I thought it would make me gain weight. Like that's how sick you are. And if I ate more than like, say, 700 calories a day, I would go up to my bedroom and shut my door so no one could see me. And I would like run in place for like 15 minutes, you know, to try to just burn some extra calories. I mean, I was completely obsessed with food. It ruled my life. I thought it was the enemy, you know, and it was really painful to go through that. And it took me a long time to admit what I had done to myself. But I realized that, you know, I had a lot of very deep mental problems that were very negatively impacting my physical health, not just my mental health. And when I finally made that connection, when I said, I just want to be a healthy person, I don't care how I look in a bikini. I don't care what the scale says. I just want to be healthy. And this was like right before my 30th birthday. So it was like, I was about to have this like milestone birthday, you know? And I was like, I don't want to go into the next decade of my life feeling this way. You know, I've got to really make some changes. And the only person who can change my life is me. That's nobody else's responsibility but me. And so that's when I decided to just make my health a priority. And then I knew it was like, if I eat a well-balanced, nutrient-dense diet, if I exercise regularly, if I take care of my mental health, then everything will fall into place. So, And then once I finally got through that, that's when I was like, you know what, I'm really passionate about this. I've been through a lot. I want to help other people who might be struggling with the same things, or who don't really understand what, being healthy really means. And I certainly learned that, healthy is very holistic, that it, like I said, I feel like we have 4 domains of health: your physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual. Mm-hmm. So you've got to nurture all of them. Yep. And so that's why I decided to become a certified personal trainer and a health coach. And then a few years later, I decided to write a book about, really based on what I had been through, which is why it's called Don't Let Your Weight Determine Your Worth, and a holistic guide to enhanced health and healing through self-love. Because that's really what I did, is I finally learned to love myself. And by doing that, that's when I could really take care of my whole being.
Yeah, I mean, that makes a lot of sense. I think, kind of within those pieces of the story you were sharing, and I think as it relates to anyone who's going through a journey, right? This journey that we call life, right? We could call life an entire journey, right? There's this piece of fear, right? Really, fear is such an interesting emotion. It can be looked at in so many different ways. But I'm really curious to hear about how you think fear played a role maybe in your own healing, and how it brought you here.
That's an excellent question. Yeah, I mean, fear, it's the great limiter. It holds us back in so many ways. It can be helpful at times, but for the most part, it just holds us back. And for me, when I was sick with anorexia, I was afraid of food to the point that I was starving myself. And even after I finally got healthy and everything, I created a website that I called Enlightened Health and Fitness, because I wanted to bring, all facets of health into it. It took me 4 years to launch that website because I was so afraid to do it. I was afraid that it wouldn't, that it wouldn't be a success. And I was afraid of what people might think of me if it wasn't a success. And so it just sat there for 4 years, and I did nothing with it. And then when I finally said, this is just ridiculous. The whole reason why I created this website is because I want to be able to help people, but I can't help people if the website's not launched. So I finally did it. And the very first blog post that I wrote about fear and how much it limits us. Yeah. And it's hard to overcome, because I think that we've been sort of programmed to live very fear-based, that we're so afraid of failing. We're so afraid of what people will think of us. And we tie success to so many things that really, who told you that that's what being successful means? You have this website that millions of people go to every day. That doesn't mean you have a successful website. Right. I mean, I wrote a book. It's just an ebook over at Kindle. It's not anything special, I didn't care if it was special. I didn't need to get a big publisher or whatever. I just wanted to put something out there because I want to help people. Yep. And I don't know how many people will read it, but maybe someone will, and it'll save their life because they're anorexic right now, and it'll save their life. That to me is a success. Absolutely. But I think so many people are afraid to actually put themselves out there in any sort of way, because they're afraid that they'll fail. And we've really just got to, I think, reassess what our definition of success really is. Is it that you make a ton of money and you become famous, or is it that you're just doing what you love and hope that it brings value to the world? Because that's what I finally realized is I just want to put something out there that may help people. I have a story to tell. I know I can help people. So I'm going to put it out there and see what happens. Yeah,
I mean, that's really all you can do. I think that's really a big learning point in this journey. I want to go back to that piece that you were talking about of self-worth, right? So important. And it almost seems intuitive that it should be important to people, right? When it comes to entrepreneurship in any way, or creating something, I feel like that's just not a conversation that I have heard a lot of when it comes to entrepreneurship, right? And so, I really want to ask you, like, why do you think more people are not talking about this when it comes to creating something, entrepreneurship, like even, fundraising? I mean, even in all of that, why aren't we talking about our self-worth or our mental health?
Well, I think because it just wasn't something that people really took all that seriously before. And I think now we're finally starting to, hopefully. I mean, I think this is great that we're having this conversation right now. But yeah, I think that in the past, it was just kind of not really considered something that people needed to worry about. But it's extremely important. I mean, everyone has issues. Everyone has fear. Everyone has anxiety. So it needs to be acknowledged. Yeah. And I think that for people that they want to start something, their fear is a really big barrier that will prevent them from, looking for opportunities or taking advantage of opportunities. And I know it's scary, but, if you have something that you're passionate about, if you have something that can bring value to the world, then absolutely you should pursue it. Don't let anything hold you back. Because I think it was Henry Ford who said, whether you think you can or whether you think you can't, you're right. So whatever you believe,
good quote.
whatever you believe, you're right. So if you don't think that you can succeed, you're not going to succeed. But the only way to really fail is to just give up.
Yep.
That's what I've learned is you can't fail if you keep trying. And anytime things don't work out, it's a learning experience. You just ask yourself, what can I learn from this?
Exactly. So, yeah, no, I mean, that's a great point. What you just said, in terms of, whether you think you can or you can't, you're right, and I think in that, I think that's where like support from others really matters. I have a background in mental health counseling and expressive arts therapy. So I would do art with kids and adults, and we do them in groups. And one of the most important things and the most powerful things I think about being in a community, right, even in that little room, wherever we were, was that eventually people were sharing their experiences of like, oh, you feel scared about this? I felt scared about this too, oh, I thought I couldn't do this. And someone, as the group started to trust each other, they were like, yeah, of course you can do that, And so my thinking, when I've witnessed that with my own eyes, I'm like, why can't we have that for people who are creating things? Why can't we have that for entrepreneurs, right? I think we need that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'd love to get your thoughts on that. What would it mean to have a community of people to share things, struggles, successes in real time somewhere?
I think that would be fantastic. And, hopefully this is something that, that can come from that. Maybe this is just like another forum that can be used in that way, because we all are, I think, in the same sort of boat there. Like we all have the same anxieties, and I think similar, worries about how can I make this happen, and it can be really overwhelming, when you think of everything that you might need to do, and it can be very lonely too. When you're out there and you're trying to make something happen. So you never know when you actually start talking to people about it. Not only will you know that you're not alone, but you don't know what kind of networking that will bring you, like people that have similar ideas. You can start building something together, which, and I think that we're starting to see that more and more, that people are, we're kind of finding our tribe, as they say, and it's a lovely feeling. But yeah, I mean, I think that there's all kinds of resources out there that people can use, so that, if they need help. And, this is just another great example of how people are starting these conversations, and I'm very proud to be a part of it. Thank you.
Yeah, sure. Happy that you're here.
But this is a great start, I think, of a sort of a new way of looking at things, and giving people alternatives that weren't there before. Yeah,
I mean, that makes a lot of sense. I wanted to know, kind of in your journey, can you think of a moment along the way of someone that helped you or that helped guide you? I mean, I'm sure there were probably more than one moment, but is there any moment in particular that stands out to you that really kind of said, oh, this feels right, or this is, I can do this because of this person?
Yeah, I have a friend who has been just so supportive of me. Like she's really the only person I know that's like read my book from cover to end, and just really just so like just so sweet and so supportive, and just has made me feel so good about myself and about what I've done. And it can be hard, like I said, I think we all think like nobody wants to listen to me. Nobody cares about what I have to say. Mm-hmm. And for her to say, there were so many things that you said that helped me, that I like, I bookmarked these things as I was reading it. And I mean, it's such a great compliment to give to someone. So yeah, I mean, just having that support system there, it's so important. It wasn't somebody that gave me money. It was someone that just gave me that emotional support. So
that's right. Yeah. And talking about that, I think emotional support, honestly, I would argue is more important than the money. Because, again, right, tying this idea of how we feel about ourselves and what we're putting out there to how much it's going to bring in cost-wise, right? That's almost like that equation doesn't really match up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so, that piece in there that you were saying, really like your friend just showed so much love and care and support, what could that look like in a community of entrepreneurship where money really is a part of the conversation? I mean, let's not fool ourselves, right? There's kind of this idea about, money coming and going, but also people really need it to live. They have to do what they have to do to pay their rent and, take care of their families, feed their families and their friends. So I guess what could that look like? What do you think that would bring to kind of the entrepreneurship community to really have a place where we can just share things in real time and cultivate that love and support?
Yeah, I mean, I think it would be invaluable. Mm-hmm. Like I personally am not aware of anything like that that's out there. So I think to build something like that would be extremely helpful for people, that they could go there, they could talk about their ideas, they could get that just somebody saying, hey, like this sounds great, good for you. And you never know, like, again, you never know what can come from that. Right. But yeah, I mean, it's so important to have people in your life that, are like cheerleaders for you. And I think that since we're all sort of in the same boat, we understand each other, and we would certainly be there for each other. I mean, I know that just when I see my friends like on Facebook or whatever talk about something that they just accomplished, I'm so happy for them, and it's like, you want to be able to cheer for people. So I think that would be such an invaluable thing, that if we could develop that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think that's what we're trying to do here, right? Is it's everything starts from these small steps, these small building blocks. And I want to thank you really, truly for sharing your story, putting your story out there, because I think, and your thoughts, here, because that's a part of that change that we're really trying to build. And it does start small. It can kind of seem overwhelming when you think about it in the mega context. But I think these are the conversations that really matter. So, yeah.
One of the things that I learned was, I think we all focus so much on the end result, and it's really the journey that's the most important. So, when you think about getting to the end and all that you need to do to get there, that's when it gets overwhelming. So just focus on one thing that you can do right now that can help you get to where you want to be. Yep. So break it down, make it smaller.
Yeah. Small attainable goals. That's the goal right there. Mm-hmm. But the love and support piece is really key. And I think, recognizing that you are more than that dollar sign, recognizing, the role that fear can play, not like you didn't have fear when you put your thoughts out there. You talked about all that, but you still did it, and here you are, so I think that's truly inspiring. And I really want to thank you for sharing the piece of your journey with us.
Well, thank you so much for having me. It was such a treat to be here. And I, even just doing this, I was scared beforehand, but
same.
You just gotta put yourself out there. So, but you made me feel great, Danielle. You did a great job.
I try, Yeah, I think, I'm a fan of laughter. I'm a fan of smiling. I
Yeah.
love to be goofy. That's how I roll. But I'm glad, glad that you're here. And I know that you're going to hop onto Discord. You're going to do an Ask Me Anything around 11:45 or so. So yeah, catch Lauren there, everyone. She's going to be on Discord. It's called AMA1, which is an Ask Me Anything. So feel free to go in there. You can ask her questions. I'm sure she'd be happy to speak with you and answer anything, any questions you might have. But
Absolutely.
yes, thanks so much, Lauren, for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you.